being a mom can be overwhelming, and it was a little hard for me to find myself and find ways to care for me and for the baby.
Hola, hola, Angela. How are you?
Hi, good. Good to see you. Nice to meet you in person, kind of.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you. I'm very excited for you to be here. I just believe that the power of social media can literally connect us in so many different levels. And I appreciate you reaching out to me because I was very thrilled to see a brand dedicated for little peques and families and celebrating Latino culture. And so Dulce Dreams literally became a dream of like how amazing this is. And so I am so excited for you to be here just because I think you have a lot to share and how your business is essentially rooted into a topic that is often not really talked about within our comunidad. And that is sleep, and specifically sleep hygiene, which I'm very curious to learn more about. But before we delve into the conversation, if you can introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Angela. I am a Mexican, first and foremost. I was raised here in Texas. I'm a nurse by trade. I've been a nurse for about 10 years now. I am still doing actually, because I still have a full-time job, women's services. So I've always dealt with women. I did labor and delivery, and then I did a little bit of high risk coordination. And now I'm back on the floor in a hospital here in Texas, Texas Children. And I'm in the women's pavilion. I work with, basically it's like the ER of, for women. And I love it. I love the every day. It's a different story. It's a great place to work. But I'm also Dulce Dreams founder. It's been truly a dream of mine to create something that represents our culture, that represents me and my family. I've also been really, really passionate about eco-friendliness. I think that's super important to pass on to our children. We only have one Earth, and we have to take care of it. So part of Dulce Dreams' goal is not just to represent our culture, but also to kind of save our planet. We're using bamboo fabrics. And so bamboo essentially is something that can be produced very quickly. It does not require a lot of pesticides. So we're able to produce this in a manner that kind of helps us with our earth, right? And keeps our earth nice and clean for future generations to be able to live in.
And we'll definitely talk about your business because I think it is so important to share Dulce Dreams. And I love that intentionality that you have, that it not only celebrates our cultura, but it's also being intentional with being eco-friendly, right? And being careful with our planet and everything. So how did Dulce Dreams essentially become a reality? Was it based on your personal experience with sleep? Because Dulce Dreams is specifically like a bamboo clothing line, but for the most part, your products are pajamas. And so I'm kind of curious if there's something tied in with sleep and overall the well-being of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So it has everything to do with sleep. I have a daughter. She is going to be 3 years old in a few months. And when she was born, I mean, it was a whirlwind. As we know, being a mom can be overwhelming. I didn't have family here. I live in Houston, and so all of our family's from South Texas, and it was a little hard for me to kind of find myself and find ways to care for me and for the baby. And also Luna had eczema, still has eczema. And so we had to be very conscientious about what types of lotions we put on her, what types of soaps, what type of clothing, because she could break out very easily. And so I started doing some research, and I found bamboo. Bamboo could be one of the items that we could use on her safely that I knew wasn't going to irritate her skin. But once I bought her some, I bought some for myself. I was like, okay, let's do a little matching moment. And I fell in love. I fell in love with the texture. I fell in love with just everything about it. And so I started buying a lot more and just kind of spending a lot of money on it, if I'm being quite honest. But the reason why I kept buying more, especially for myself, was because I found myself being a lot more comfortable at night. I'm a hot sleeper, and these PJs, they're breathable. And they're thermoregulating. So if you're a hot sleeper, it keeps you nice and cool. If you like to be a little bit warmer, it kind of just makes you warmer. So it works both ways. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And so I started buying more into it. And then I kind of hit a point where I'm like, wait a minute, I'm spending all this money on this one product, which I love and I'll continue to do, but I didn't see representation of our culture, right? And I had this idea of like, well, what if I created my own line so that we could use it and also share it with the rest of the world? And so we played around with the idea, my husband and I, and we're like, like we've seen the benefits at home. We've seen how well Luna sleeps in. We've seen the results on her skin. We've also seen the results on myself and how I'm able to just kind of sleep more comfortably. I was also pumping at the time when she was born. And so it was just really easy to like use those PJs and be able to have a pumping session in the middle of the night without being uncomfortable. And so we toyed around with the idea, and eventually it just kind of very organically happened. My husband, he's fantastic, gave me the floor, and he's like, listen, if this is something you're passionate about, if this is something that you want to do, let's do it. And so we started doing some research about how to even do it, because I have never had any experience with the textile industry or fashion industry. Although it's always been a passion of mine, I've never done anything with it. And so there had to be a lot of research that came with that. And so Dulce Dreams truly has been a project for at least 3 years since the baby was born. Just a whole year of research and trial and error, really, until we were able to finalize sizing, because that was one of our biggest pieces, was sizing. We wanted to make sure that our PJs were comfortable, but they were also something that you could continue to use, especially for the little ones. I know price range, bamboo typically is more expensive than, something you can find elsewhere. But I wanted to make sure that I was able to support that. And it was because I'm using top bamboo companies that produce our products. I am providing you with long-lasting wear. So our bamboo PJs, they're super stretchy. So let's say you buy the 3 to 6 months. They're probably going to last you up until 9, even like depending on your kid, even like a year old. And so you're not having to constantly buy more PJs. It also has the double zipper, which also came into play for those like sleeping times, right? When you're like in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, gotta change the diaper. You can easily zip from the bottom up, change that diaper, zip it back down, and then you go back to sleep. You don't have to do buttons and all that. So yes, it came in handy when we had our baby, and I was like, we have to have that in our PJs. And so we were able to kind of put all of these things together in our products to give people an opportunity to represent their culture, but also see the benefits of bamboo, because I feel like if you've never tried it before, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so we're slowly introducing this to our family and our friends and, the rest of the world out there through social media. And so, that was a big thing. It was the sizing. It was all of these little pieces that I wanted to include. For women. Awesome. Yes. And so I'm really excited to share about the women part. The women PJs, because we have babies and we have kids and we have women's. I wanted to give an opportunity for people to feel comfortable in their clothes and feel confident. And so we have from extra small all the way to 3XL. You can.
That's awesome.
Yes. I was like, I want to be inclusive. I want you to find your size and not worry about, oh, like, they don't have, I can't match with my kid because they don't have my size.
Mm,
We have them all,
mhm.
and you can mix and match the set. So that's why we sell separates, because you're not always the same size on top that you are on the bottom. And so that was something really important for me to be able to do. So
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love
yes, yes,
it. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, you are literally revolutionizing this, I think. Like, not only are you intentional about representing our culture, but it's also you're being intentional of like, just being inclusive when it comes to sizing. And you're also being intentional about the planet, right? About how y- this piece of clothing can literally last you months, specifically for the children, right?
uh-huh,
Because
uh-huh.
I just hate that my kid, specifically like when they were babies, right? Like I hated that I had to get rid of these clothes because they were only wearing them for like I don't know, like 12 weeks maybe
Yeah,
max, or less. And it breaks my heart just like getting rid of them. And yes, we've donated and we've put them into good use eventually. But when you think about consumerism and like, how are we really protecting the planet? Like, I think that it is awesome that these pajamas and these pieces of clothing can essentially last you longer than your traditional way that it's always been, specifically for little kids clothes.
yes.
So props to you. You are doing something different here.
Thank you, thank you.
I see the different types of patterns and everything as it represents our culture. Like, why do you think that representation is important to you? And specifically, since you have a little one, how is it important to you now as you're raising a child? How can you explain that to specifically a mom who is looking into baby clothes, but they're between the big brand names that I'm not even going to mention versus like Dulce Dreams? This episode is brought to you by Dulce Dreams, organic bamboo pajamas that actually celebrate our cultura. You know how hard it is to find sleepwear that represents who we are while also being practical for our families? I've been searching for something like this forever, and Dulce Dreams finally delivers what I was looking for. These aren't just regular pajamas. They're made from organic bamboo fabric that's hypoallergenic, thermoregulating, and perfect for sensitive skin. But what really got me excited is how intentional the designs are. From Loteria cards with floating beans, because that's how we play Loteria, to pan dulce patterns that bring back childhood memories, and beautiful calaverita prints to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, plus more. Dulce Dreams was designed for real familias too. Double zippers for those middle of the night diaper changes, convertible footies that extend wear time, and sizes from newborn all the way to 3XL for women, because inclusivity matters. As someone who's always been intentional about supporting small Latina-owned businesses, I love that this brand combines cultural pride with sustainability. When we invest in companies like Dulce Dreams, we're supporting businesses that create products with our familias in mind. Use my code VLM20 for 20% off your entire purchase at shopdulcedreams.com. That's SHOPDULCEDREAMS.com. You can also get free shipping on orders over $75. And you can combine this free shipping using the discount code VLM20 to get 20% off your purchase. Check them out and sleep comfortably while celebrating who you are, mama.
That, I think that's a great question. It was always something that my husband and I knew even before we had children that we wanted to incorporate in our parenting, and it was making sure that our child felt proud and felt she was heard and seen, and she was no different than any other child. Even more so, she was even more special because she has, she's bilingual and she has two cultures that she can incorporate in her own life. So we wanted to make our brand say that to others. Say, wear this with knowing that you are representing yourself and your culture, and that you can spread that to your children. You can for example, we have the Lotería print. And so I know that that's a household game. And so we wanted to be able to use that and incorporate it in our print so that maybe your child's never played that before. Maybe your child doesn't know what that is. And so you can share that culture, and you can share those memories, especially those memories, as you as a child playing maybe Loteria at your grandma's. And so being able to share that with your child, the Loteria print actually has the print of the most iconic, like, call cards, I guess you could say, but it has the name in Spanish. And so it also serves as, like, let's, maybe if you're trying to incorporate Spanish more in your household, you can start off by wearing really cute PJs and kind of going through those, and, what is this? El pájaro, el árbol, and so I was very intentional with that. I wanted to use our platform, use our PJs to encourage people to share our culture with their little ones. I realize not everybody incorporates language, right? Some people feel more comfortable speaking English. Some people feel more comfortable with Spanglish or Spanish. And so I wanted this to be a platform for everybody, no matter what you spoke at home. I wanted this to give you some nostalgia, maybe, because we do have the Pan Dulce one. Our Pan Dulce is probably our top seller, to be honest. But it brings those memories of you with maybe your mom having a little cafecito in your concha, or your, whatever it is that was your favorite at the time. And so we were very, very intentional with our prints because of that, because we wanted to make sure that our generation is able to share our memories and your proudness, for a lack of a better word, to your children, and so that they could feel the same and start building that since they're small.
I love the print. It's just so colorful, like, so positive. And it like you said, it's nostalgic. You literally can connect to the patterns that are shown. Like, I, as a Latina, right, and as a consumer, I'm always intentional of what I buy and who I want to support, and I think that it is time to just, like, have us as the consumers to really be intentional of what we want to, purchase, of what we want to consume, because being that us Latinas are the largest consumer in the United States, we have that buying power. And what better way of supporting small Latina-owned businesses like yours, for that matter? And I think because you are creating something very unique that has never been done. Like, I remember when I was pregnant and I was searching for, like, basically, like, culturally relevant clothing for babies. It was either, the very traditional, like, embroidered, like, little tops.
Sure,
and I think they're cute and all, but they're not, like,
practical,
functional.
right?
Like, they're not practical. Yeah. And I wanted something comfortable for my kids, but unfortunately I didn't find it. And now I have you, which I'm very excited. I'm definitely going to shop around.
Absolutely.
And get some, and even for myself too, because again, I think there's a lot of intentionality here, and what a better way to support your business.
Well, thank you so
I just
much.
wanted to say that. You did mention how Dulce Dreams became sort of an inspiration out of your daughter, but even for yourself, like, you mentioned how bamboo clothing really made you feel comfortable, and overall your quality of sleep became better. And so can you tell us, I guess I don't know if there's a way to connect the two, but in general with, like, sleep, like, how have you essentially revolutionized even, like, your sleep patterns and your daughter's quality of sleep as well? Can you tell us a little bit more about your story with that regard?
So I've always prioritized sleep, like, even before the baby, right? I've always prioritized my sleep because I'm a person that if I don't get enough sleep, I am cranky, I am just not pleasant, right? And so I knew that very early on that I wanted to incorporate that once we had a baby as early as we could. I know the first 4 weeks are very, you're learning, both baby and you are learning, and things are flowing, and until you have your routine. And so bamboo became part of that routine very early on. We would start off with a bath, putting on our comfortable PJs, the bottle, and then we did sleep training. So once she was old enough to do that, and that was about we started about 4 weeks, which is very, very early. But eventually she transitioned over to her own bed in her own room around 5 months. And so
Mm.
bamboo and bamboo products became like a comfort for her. And so, yes, you're not sleeping in our bedroom anymore, but here's something to remind you that, you know what, mommy wears this, you wear this, and this is going to keep you company, and mommy's right next door, right? And so that kind of became part of our routine. And now that she's older, we both have our own kind of routines. It's really funny because she's definitely thrived into like her, what we call sleep maxing moment. Like she so her routine looks a little bit like, we'll have dinner, we'll have bath time, we'll have a little bit of TV time. She has her last milk, which is more for comfort than anything. And then we'll read a book, or we'll put on our PJs, and then we'll go into her room. And then she has like this like self-care routine. She'll put on some lip gloss. And then she'll ask for Vicks. She's like an old lady. She'll like rub Vicks on her chest and put some on her nose. And
That's
we'll
so
have a little
funny.
prayer. And then she typically asks, like I ask her, who do you want to pray for tonight? Right. And she'll pick. Sometimes it's her teacher. Sometimes it's Pikachu. Sometimes, you know. And so, but we have this little routine that works really well for us. And she's
Yeah.
sound asleep by like 8:30. We're pushing it at 8:30. But that's kind of how we incorporated that into her sleep. Just number one thing was routine. Number two was being comfortable. And that goes kind of for both of us. Like once she's asleep, but then I typically take a shower, have dinner with my husband, and then we have maybe an hour, 2 hours to ourselves, which is honestly, it's wonderful because we don't have a lot of help here in Houston. We, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have our parents, or we don't have siblings. And so we had to carve time for ourselves as individuals, but also carve time for us as a couple. And so this 1 to 2 hours before bed for us has been wonderful. We're able to kind of have conversations that we probably wouldn't have been able to if she was still up and running, or wind down and watch a movie or watch a show, or you know what, doom scroll. Sometimes you just need time to like unwind and time for yourself. And so
Right.
it's been really, really great to be able to set our routines very early on so that it can kind of continue through her childhood and hopefully even into her adulthood, because it is so important to have good sleep.
I love how you set that foundation from the very beginning. And to be honest, a lot of times like our community hesitates a lot around like sleep training. And I had a conversation at a previous episode with a sleep training coach, and just breaking some of the myths that are behind sleep training. And so I'm curious what kind of method you use, and how did you break away from the myths that you grew up with, or kind of like the comments, right? The unsolicited advice that we all get.
Oh, yeah.
How did you navigate that?
So we used, and this, I am not in any way, form, or shape promoting this one, but we used Taking Care of Babies.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a point in our like 4 weeks of having her at home that we were just so sleep deprived. We had heard about this method and we were like, you know what? Let's just try it. Like, let's just see what happens. I will say you have to be very committed to the process, because it can be difficult to know that your child is crying and you intentionally aren't doing anything, not necessarily not doing anything about it, but you're giving them space to figure it out, right? And so that can be very difficult, and it can essentially, or not essentially, but it can be extremely difficult if you've grown up in a family where like the baby cries and you have to pick up the baby. And
Yeah.
so I had to be very intentional, and I had to be like, okay, I'm doing this for her. I'm doing this for me. And this is for, it's going to benefit everybody at the end of the day. Once she was fully trained, and she was in her own room and, you know, sleeping on her own, which was very early on as well. It was like 5 months that we started doing that. When we would travel to our in-laws or we would travel to our parent, like my mom, you got a lot of like negative maybe comments about like, why are you letting her sleep by herself? Or it's so early, because at that time she was probably asleep by like 6:50, 7 o'clock, because she was a baby. And we had to educate our family and our friends like, hey, like this is actually pretty normal, and it's actually healthy, right?
Right.
And so it was a little hard to have these conversations with our family, because typically gatherings in our culture start around 6 to 7.
Yeah.
And so people would come over, they're like, where's the baby? And I'm like, yeah, she's asleep. Like, sorry.
Right.
You missed her. So that was a little hard to have people understand. But now she's 3. Now we've pushed it, you know, as she grew up and she needed less sleep. So she's able to kind of hang out now a little bit,
Right.
but we still respect our routine. And everybody does too by now. Everybody knows, oh, it's time for Luna to go to bed. But it was a little hard to break that cycle and break those barriers that we didn't even know we had until we were forced to break them. But it's worked really well for us. And I encourage, if there's any mom out there that's thinking about it or, you know, wants to know more, do your research first and foremost. Do what works best for you. But like we had this conversation offline, put yourself first, right? They're going to cry. They're going to get over it. And then eventually it's going to just become part of that routine, and you're going to buy yourself a few hours for yourself and your spouse, or maybe for your older children. So it's definitely beneficial, but it is hard because of our background. I think it's even harder because we are having to break those cycles, but do it. You got this.
Yes. Yes. No, absolutely. And I think that as modern Latina moms, right, who are in this different generation, I definitely hear a lot how, you know, we oftentimes prioritize ourselves when it comes to any activity that, you know, that is during the day. But then with sleep specifically, I think we don't often, we don't talk about it, like how much or lack of sleep we have. And B, I don't think that that is usually a priority, unless like you've always been intentional. You've always been intentional with sleep. So like you obviously carried that on prior to becoming a mom, which is great. But I think that oftentimes, like even for myself, like I definitely have lost that prioritization of like sleep. And so I wonder, how can we put ourselves first when it comes to sleep specifically? Because we have navigated how we can put ourselves to, like, you know, go to the gym, right? Or how we can take care of our nutrition and all this stuff. But when it comes to sleep, which is so fundamental,
Absolutely.
yeah, like, can you just give us some data or any information? Like, and first of all, you mentioned sleep hygiene. Like, what is that, first of all?
Yeah. It's so funny that you bring this up, because I was just doing some research not too long ago, and the data does not lie.
Yeah.
Okay, so sleep hygiene, the word hygiene, you think like taking a shower, brushing your teeth, but sleep also has that, and it's just like building a routine, concentrating on the amount and quality of sleep that you get each night. It's very interesting to see women from age 35 to 44 are getting the least amount of sleep statistically. And if you think about it, those are the moms, right? Those are the middle moms, the ones that have those either toddlers to like early high schoolers, and you're doing projects at night, you have baseball, you have all of these sports, you have last minute projects, right? And so these moms are the ones that are lacking the most sleep, but they're the ones that need it the most because you need to be energized. You need to recharge in order to be 100% the next day. So kind of doing a self-scan and seeing, okay, like, am I eating what I'm supposed to be eating? Am I drinking enough water? Why am I still, for me, and I'll tell you that was another way I realized like we need to maybe look into sleep training was I was drained. I could, at that point, I was like, I don't know that this is just the newborn stage. I think there's more to it. I was moody all the time. I was tired all the time. And even if I slept through the day, like when she would nap, I would nap as well. It was still not enough. And so I did a little bit of inward look, and I was like, okay, what am I missing here? Because at that point I was trying to eat healthy because I was breastfeeding and I was doing all the things. And it came down to sleep. And it came down to the fact that I wasn't getting enough sleep. And so I wasn't functioning at my 100% that I wanted to be. So I think you have to be intentional in that and make sure that you prioritize this one thing that maybe in our early 20s, in our teen years, we could function without, or we could function with very little. But now studies have shown that women need at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep, which is a lot.
Wow.
It's a lot of sleep. And so we just have to, the word again, intentional about that, because otherwise, if you don't put yourself first, no one else is. So just got to look inward, got to do the checklist. Am I eating? Am I drinking? What am I missing? And it's probably going to be sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's usually not the first thing that comes to mind. And when you think about it, I mean, sleep is really connected to our stress levels, our hormones. Like there's a lot of things that are interconnected if we don't sleep enough. And especially during those ages of like 35 to 45, like those are crucial years because that's when we go into this new phase of like perimenopause. And that is becoming such a hot topic right now. But if we want to at least trying to avoid some of those symptoms, it all has to fall back into like the root cause. And sometimes it can be the lack of sleep that we all have. And I'm glad that you mentioned this. And again, it's all tied in with, sleep training, right? And how you're really taking care of yourself, how you're prioritizing on yourself, because at the end of the day, I believe that if we want to be present moms, we should also be taking care of ourselves and our sleep. And so what is one key tip that you want to share with our mamas here on the podcast, and especially through your experience as a nurse and an entrepreneur? A lot of times, and even for myself, and I'll be guilty with this, I feel like I don't have enough time during the day where then I sacrifice my sleep so that I can get the things done. So being that you're a busy mom, like what is some tip or inspiration or anything that you want to share to a mom that oftentimes does struggle to find the time during the day and then doesn't sleep enough because of that?
Okay, so that's a really good question that I still to this day struggle with. Cleaning the house, right? We, again, our background, we love to clean. We love, because it's like a sign of like how well kept your life is. If someone comes over, you're like, oh wow, everything's so clean. Girl, no. Like prioritize yourself. If you're staying up at night because you're washing dishes, because you're vacuuming, just no one cares. Like no one cares.
Yep.
Go to sleep, get some rest. If you must, wake up early. Do it in the morning. But like do not let our ingrained ideology of like your house has to be immaculate, your house has to be clean. If I take this down, no. It's a hot mess back there. So, our generation just needs to be comfortable in that. Needs to be comfortable in the mess. that we are, because we're in it together, and we're all raising small children. And truly, honestly, we all know our houses are not immaculate, and we just need to get over it. Get over it.
Yep.
Get some sleep. Do it tomorrow. Do it the next day. It's going to be fine. And I still to this day struggle with that. My husband's like, even yesterday, I made a comment like, ay, esta casa está bien sucia. My husband's like, oh, every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, I know it's coming. I'm like, it's ingrained in our brain that our houses have to look a certain way. But prioritize you and your children in your sleep, and the house comes later.
Right, right. I'm so glad you mentioned this. I'm so glad because there's a lot of things that we need to unlearn and relearn. And this is just one of the topics, right, that affects just like our overall well-being. And I know that it gives us anxiety. I understand, like, and again, like if we have the means, we could possibly get help.
Yeah.
Like that's what I did for quite some
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
Before, quitting my 9 to 5, like I definitely had a cleaning person, and it was the best decision I've ever made. And again, it all depends on what you want to prioritize, right? And that way we wouldn't like complain like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, I'm so sleepy, I'm so grudgy, I'm so like, I'm overstimulated, I'm all of these negative things that oftentimes we feel, and that is because of the effect of not having enough sleep.
It's all kind of coming
Yes.
back, circle, like, why am I feeling like this? My house is dirty. I haven't slept. Oh, it all really truly is a full circle.
Yes. It's such a struggle, but there are definitely ways to alleviate that and to break away from some of those generational curses that we were brought up. And so, no, I'm really glad that you mentioned this. So when it comes to your business, what is one of the big challenge transitioning from just like solely nursing to now entrepreneurship, and now you're doing both? Like how are you doing this, mujer? Like, and again, with this essence of sleep, I mean, I know that you did mention how like cleaning the house is not a big priority for you, right? I mean, not that I'm saying that you're mujer sucia, no, but like there's different priorities, right?
Absolutely.
And I totally respect that. But in terms of balancing it all, like, do you have any wisdom to share to the mamas out there?
Man, I think I'm in a unique situation because I'm a nurse, and so it's only 3 days a week, and I have all the other days of the week to kind of put my energy into this. My baby does go to daycare, so I do have that extra support. So I know I'm in like a very different position that maybe other moms don't find themselves with a 9 to 5, or kids that don't necessarily go to daycare. But truly, honestly, if you're passionate about something, if you have the courage, because it does take a lot of courage to start your own business. It's scary. It really is. Start where you start. Like it doesn't matter, but if you don't start, it's never going to happen. I learned very early on that you have to knock on all of doors. Like you have to make your own path. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to go out there and hold your hand and walk you through it. That's not going to happen. And if you think that's going to happen, you might be one of those lucky ones, but for the most part, you have to start somewhere, and you have to be inspired by your own like wants, right? Like you have to be your own inspiration, and you have to go out there and do it yourself. Porque si no lo haces tú, no lo va a hacer nadie. And so you have to be very intentional. Again, that word, I feel like it's the word of the day.
Yeah.
You have to just be very intentional and put yourself out there. Like that's how we connected. I was just trying to find doors to knock on, and I found you, and I knocked on the door, and here we are. But you have to open your own doors. And if they say no, that's the worst thing that can happen, is a no. And then what happens? You move on and you knock on the next door. And if anything, it just gives you that much more power, much more energy to continue your journey until you find that door that does open.
And I think this can definitely be applicable to all things in life, not necessarily starting your own business. It's just a matter of sometimes we have to push our own buttons to do something like this. And I know that, you know, from a cultural perspective and even societal perspective, like I think women have always been told to be quiet, to comply, and all of this stuff. But it's like, no, like we have to have that empowerment to just like move forward. And like you said, just like knock on every door, and you never know who will welcome you. And so I think that's key. So thank you for sharing that. Sure. Yeah. And so I have one last question that I ask our mommies on the show. And this is one I did not have you prepare for.
Okay.
How are you redefining motherhood?
Oh, I'm making my own rules, and I'm breaking those cycles. I think, again, in my situation, because I don't live with family around, it's a lot easier to do that because you don't have that person in your ear telling you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. But if you can't get away, and if you live next to your mom, just it's a new generation. It's a new generation of moms, and we have to find ourselves, and we have to be empowered. And you just breaking those cycles is so important. As easy as not washing dishes, right? And you have to start as little as that, and then come up with your own way of living, your own routines, what works for you, what works for your husband, not what works for your mom or your mother-in-law or your sister. It's what works for you and your family.
Oh, I love it. So take this as a sign, mujer. Like, find something that works for you. And I love it. We'll definitely end with that. But before we wrap up officially, Angela, can you share with our audience where they can find you, Dulce Dreams, any way that they can connect with you?
Absolutely. So our website is shopdulcedreams.com. But you can find us on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. Dulce Dreams Clothing is our hashtag or our username for all of those sites. And because I'm a guest here and I've loved this podcast so much, I have created a promotion or a little discount for all of your listeners. It's going to be BLM20 for 20% off your entire purchase. And if you hit $75, you get free shipping. So you can combine that as well.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'll make sure to add your website, social media handles, and the discount code as well in the show notes. I could see you flourish and I could see you grow even more. And so congratulations on this. I know it, like you said, it was like 3 years in the making, and I'm so glad that now it's come to fruition. And again, for those of you listening, as Latinas, we have that buying power. And what better way to support a Latina-owned business that is very intentional, going back to that word, very intentional of not just clothing, but our culture and our environment. So thank you so much, Angela. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for giving me the platform, for sharing my story, sharing our products with your audience. I hope that they take a little peek, and hopefully they find something they like. I'd love to share a few pieces here just to kind of show all of those little details on the onesies.
And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, this is a little added bonus for you all. And that is, you'll get to see the products here with Angela. So, okay, tell us a little bit more about this piece.
Okay, so this is a Lotería print that I was mentioning earlier. And I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit, but you can see el sol, el corazón, el cantarito. So this is what I meant earlier about like practicing these words with your kids and showing them what you used to play and how you used to play it. If you can see, there's even like the little beans, because back in the day, that's how you played with the beans. So
I love it. Oh my God.
So these are our tags. We don't actually have any tags. These are all on
Good.
the actual clothing. So no itchy tags.
That's
These are the
awesome.
footies and they're the grippy ones. So you don't have those slips, you don't have those falls. And they also kind of convert, let's say, like they grow out of it. This is how you buy yourself a few more months at least. You can take out the foot. And so then you have this all this extra added room for them to continue to use. All of our onesies, no, it doesn't matter what size they are, they all have the mittens. So you can
Oh,
flip
that's
it and then,
awesome.
if it gets cold or whatever, you have
Right.
a 1 year old because we have up until 18 to 24 months in the onesies.
Okay.
You can still use that. And then the double zipper, which is probably my favorite. You can zip down
I love
and then you can zip from the bottom up as well.
love it. I love it. And also the colors are just so bright and they're like unisex too.
Yes.
Like I love that any kid can wear it,
Yes.
which
And
yeah.
then this is our bestseller. This is our pan dulce one.
I love
Yeah.
it. Oh
You have
my
like your
goodness.
iconic el marranito, las orejas. I never knew what this one was called, but the
The little triangle?
yeah, la galleta de colores. I don't know that it has a name, but you have your iconic pan dulce here. And
Love
this
it.
is I want to say it's unisex. Like I would put this on a boy. But we
Oh,
have
oh, me too.
we have 4 different patterns. We have those two. We have calaveritas and we also have Frida that I didn't get to bring out. But those are all part of our core collection. This is our blanket. It's a
Yes.
60 by 60, so it's huge. It's
Wow.
3 layers, so it's nice and warm or nice and cool, whatever you prefer. It kind of just acclimates to your own body. But this print particularly only comes in blankets. So this is kind of like our limited edition print here.
Okay. I love it. I love it. I can't even use it for me.
Yes, girl.
Because my husband does not like to cover up, but I do. And I'm like, that already looks great. Like, yes, for me. No, I love it. Well, Angela, thank you so much for showing us your products. They're amazing. And I love how like relevant they are for us Latinas and Latinos in this community. And so thank you. Thank you. Thank
Well,
you so
thank you again
much.
for giving me the platform and the time to share our story with you guys. Thank you so much.